Go ahead. Are we good? All right. I'd like to call the meeting to order. February 8th. Roll call. All members present. Mr. Mellenberg is at a convention. Attest to publication.
I saw it.
Thank you, Joni. Approval of the agenda.
I'll approve the agenda. Second.
Motion made by Lori, seconded by Tina to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. I will read the mission, vision, value, and the collective commitment. Bangor School District mission, vision, and values statement. Mission, Bangor Pride, a small school building big futures. Vision, an innovative small school creating excellence through personalized learning and relationships for all. Values, student-centered, small class sizes, continuous improvement, professionalism, opportunities for all, safety, foster community, sustainability. Board of Education collective commitments. As a member of the Bangor School Board, I will be an active listener who is open-minded, respectful, and inquisitive. Together, with one collective voice, we are committed to forward thinking while strategically prioritizing for our students, staff, and community now and into the future. Public comment? Okay. Approval of the minutes from January 11th regular meeting.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Joni, seconded by Lori to approve the January 11th, 2023 regular meeting minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I'll abstain, Julie.
Shelley will abstain. Thank you. January 11th closed session.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Tina, seconded by Lisa. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll abstain again.
Shelley abstain. Thank you. Special reports. Student reports. Welcome, Nora.
Hello,
Hello.
I am Nora. I'm a student here. This is kind of just a recap on January and February, what we've been doing in the schooling, like for everything. During January, we had our winter formal. It was good. We were kind of nervous. We didn't know how it would go or how many people went. Some people went, but I know I went, and it was fun. We kind of played our own songs on the DJ and had just fun on the dance floor, and it was just fun. Now, this week, we have been selling Valentines during lunch every single day if anyone wants to buy them. And it's really cute. They're just little cards that you can buy. It's like $1, I think. ACT prep for the juniors was a couple of days ago. They had two days in a row, so that was good for them to practice. I know I liked it, not really, but it was good. The girls' basketball team had their cancer awareness night, so we got our pink jerseys, and my coach Merlin set it up pretty well, and he did a really nice speech that really touched a lot of people, and we handed out flowers and kind of connected with the Royal basketball team on that night, so that was really good. There's parent-teachers conference, I think, sometime. I don't know if my parents are going, but we had root beer floats during our finals week, so that was good. At the end of the day, we had a booth in the hallway for any kids just to come and get, just relax and have a little break from studying and testing all day. There was a Pops concert on February 13th. We have school off Wednesday, I'm pretty sure, which that's a good thing. We'll take all those days off. Braden Glasspool and Cody Peterson for the West Salem and Bangor Co-op Wrestling. They both won conference, which was very good to support for our school. The girls' basketball team also had a pork chop fundraiser at the bowling alley lanes, and we raised a lot of money, and it was really good to communicate with our community and just have fun, and the pork chops were good. Jonah Larson had his signing for Platteville for football, which we were very proud of him, and he's going to do great. Dustin McDonald, he hit 1,000 points 2 days ago, yesterday, I think, at New Lisbon, and that was really exciting. A lot of people came with a lot of signs. The elementary word of the month is kindness, which is very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Nora, very much.
Nora, you did pretty good solo.
Yeah, you did very well. Thank you. All right, state education convention. I'll go ahead. I attended. I went there on Tuesday night and had to return on Thursday morning. It was the 102nd State Education Convention, Unity, Community, and Opportunity. Tuesday morning, I went to a CISA breakfast because I'm on the CISA board. It's always represented by the, I guess, everyone, WASBA, WASDA, they all sponsor it. And it's just nice connecting with colleagues from the different WASBAs, different CISAs. And John Ashley was there, of course, and he always has some good things to say. David and I both attended the keynote speaker. His name is David Sager. Very fun. He talks about Trust Edge Leadership Institute is what he is ahead, or is his organization, Trust Edge Leadership Institute CEO and best-selling author. He talks about trust. It was very good, and he had some good humor with it. And David, if you want to add anything, he said, if you want to find out if you're trusted, do a survey. And I thought of the survey that we did and the results that we had, that we were trusted as a board. So I looked at David and was like, yes, because he said exactly that's what you should do if that's in question. And we had really good results from our poll that we took. So David, anything more about?
Yeah, we had some good conversations after that. The trust was an interesting word when we had developed the collective commitments for the board, and we kind of reflected on those conversations, and how I have worked with this board, and just kind of how we continue to work forward. And then I think that leads into the next question. The next item on the agenda there. There's some work to be done yet with the board, and as we continue that journey that we started with that retreat last year, and we'll be looking to schedule one of those this spring, as soon as school gets out, or right around the time that school is getting out. And I think part of that will be what Julie and I sat and talked about after that session is kind of looking at our strategic plan again for the district, not necessarily overhauling it, but revisiting it and making sure that is the strategic plan that this board believes in to continue to move us forward, and then kind of setting some goals for the board, for the district, based on that strategic plan from that. So definitely it was a good reflection point. It was really nice for Julie and I to be able to hear that same message and then have some time talking about it. So good stuff.
Then in the afternoon, I went to a session called Science of Reading, Leadership is the Key. It was presented by an array of people from the St. Francis Public School District in Wisconsin. And they talked about our reading in Wisconsin and how there's some gaps compared to some other country or some other states. And one of the successful states has a reading specialist in every school. It was very interesting. I have a little science of reading quiz. They talk just about achievement and that we just need to get kids to read, and that a lot of adults don't read because they didn't learn to read as kids. Talked about achievement gaps in reading. All schools have them, even the highest functioning schools, even the schools that get those high report cards. She said the statistics tell us that, what was the gal's name, Dave? You knew her, that from...
Deb Kerr, wasn't it? Yeah.
She, and David wasn't there, but I was telling him about it, and he knew the gal. She said, so even there, they get great state report cards, and she said, we all have some learning opportunities ahead of us. It was very interesting. I enjoyed it. And then on Thursday morning, our very own David Brockup and Kevin Hickman presented on facility planning to new district administrators, or for new district administrators. And they just talked about our journey and our process from beginning to end with the referendum, how we went about hiring Nexus. There were I think about 25 people there, and for state convention, that's a pretty good turnout because there's so many sessions. Lots of great questions were asked. How did this work and why did you do that? I heard them talking afterwards, but we should be very proud. They represented Bangor very good and just talked from the heart. They talked about how we said, we're going to do this in how many months? So, and they were very honest with what the process that we went through and how we needed to really think and work through the process. And they talked about, how we had the teachers involved, we invited community, just everything that we did.
Yeah, no, I thank you for that. No, it was a good workshop or a good convention, and for board members who have not attended, there's sessions on insurance and insurance consortiums and all different types of things like that. The issues that we end up discussing frequently. There's just lots of opportunities to see how other districts are handling the same challenges that we are. So again, I'd encourage anybody that's able to make that trip down to Milwaukee next year for that. It's really good, and again, to be able to have some conversations, and just socialize a little bit too is a good part of that whole trip. So it was a great convention. So thank you.
We had a good conversation with Bob Butler. We ran into Brian Brewer and just made some connections there as well. Any questions? Okay. So next on the agenda, planning for the board retreat. As David talked about, especially with the new member coming into the board this spring, we would like to take that opportunity to do some type of retreat, either towards the end of May, beginning of June, whatever collaboratively the board collectively what we think would work best for scheduling. Think about some training, setting some direction for the future.
Yeah, and we've found that it's really difficult to get everybody in consensus on a date and time. But if there are dates that you guys are going to be out of town or weeks that would work better for you, it gets very hectic at the end of the school year. We all know that. So it would be better. Would it be better to wait till school is just out, or do it before we hit that final rush? You can provide me some thoughts on that and time of day and that type of thing that would work the best. But I think it would be really good for us to be able to get together, and Kelly is here tonight as well, and for us to provide some of the structure and overview that we've worked on to this point, and be able to share that with her, and then kind of set some direction for the next school year. So I know that was something that's been done. We had one last year, but I think it'd be worth having another one. So let me know availability.
I think that the time was nice last year, kind of early evening with some dinner. I think that worked well. But as far as the date, please let David know if you're planning a vacation right when school gets out or whatever it may be.
Work around baseball if I can.
Absolutely. All right, more to come. All right, on to committee reports. Goals Committee. We have a meeting February 22nd. We haven't met since last time. We will meet on February 22nd at 6:15 in the boardroom. On to finances.
Yeah, on the financial side, Angie and I did not get any questions this week, but the financials are there for the month. If there are any questions, I can field those to the best of my ability without Angie, but if otherwise, we'd look for approval of the financials tonight.
I do have one quick question. It's not voucher related. On the actual financial report, can you just refresh my memory, the $10,000 peer mentoring grant, what that was about?
That's on the coming in side, correct?
Right. It's a receipt.
We go through which year is which, but will you, Mike helps with that with the West Salem
Yeah,
team.
we collaborate with West Salem School District to raise, so it's, there's a in-kind contribution that we give. Usually we use the money for our PLC convention. Yeah, it's just a grant that we are awarded. We get it pretty much every year.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No other questions. I'll move to approve the financials as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Shelley to approve the financial report. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. District reports, facility projects updates. David?
Yeah, I'll just give you kind of a quick update on where we are with projects. On the financial side, as you all know, we took 2 bond anticipation notes out for the first 2, basically, roughly $10 million issuances. Then the intention always has been to sell those onto the bond market, and then we would do that process one more time at the beginning of 2024. So we did the ones in December for 2022. We've done the ones in January for 2023, and then we'll wait till January of 24 to take the last 4.75 million at that point in time. So those 2 processes, the first bond anticipation notes have been completed. The first round has actually been sold onto the bond market, and that was like at a 4.1 or 4% that I shared last time at the last meeting, and reminded you that we had originally been anticipating somewhere around that 4.95 interest rate. And that was locking in the furthest out payments towards our debt. So those are the payments that are out in year like 17, 18, and or in year 17, 18, 19, 20 type payments, and locking those at a 4% interest in an environment where CPI is at 8%. That's a really good investment for our district, and a savings from some of those original projections. Angie and I spoke with Brian from Baird today, and their hope was to lock in either today or first thing tomorrow morning the second round into the bond market. So, and when we talked today, they're still anticipating that second round of bonds, which would be kind of working backwards from that, to be about the same interest rate, which we had originally, again, anticipated that going up as we were anticipating interest rates going up, but he still believes it's going to be in the very low 4s. So we should have that number tomorrow, and then I'll be calling on Julie and Shelley to do the next round of signatures for that. They are signing the closing packet on the first round bond issuance tonight. It feels like we've seen a lot of each other since you guys gave them the authority to sign off on those things, a couple months ago at the meeting. So really good progress there. Once we get through that process, I believe March 24th was the kind of the date that everything closed. And we would pay off those first 2 bond anticipation notes at Huntington Bank and Merchants Bank out of out of Onalaska. So those two would then go away, and it would just be those long-term bonds that are exactly and what we had planned for with Brian in our financial sessions. So good news there. So that puts us with a place where we're that $19,250,000, which is a good 80% of the money that we will use for the facilities projects, is sitting in our WISC account, and PMA is investing that based on our draw schedule. And I gave you a brief update on that last time, and there's really no change there. It's still as projected, but the money that we have on hand, if you will, between issuances, cash type money on hand, is actually performing better than what they had anticipated. So on that money, we're looking at probably about $800,000 worth of interest in the time that we carry that money that we'll be able to use towards the additional capital projects. So seems like a lot of phone calls and a lot of emails back and forth getting all that managed, but we are getting real close to having that much locked in. That will carry us through so that when we do that early issue in the beginning of 2024, we'll still take advantage of that pricing for the small issuance bonds. So that's kind of what we're working on there. On the design side, the elementary school last Tuesday, I believe, right, took a tour. We moved the whole staff meeting. Mike was nice enough to give that up. We moved the whole staff meeting to Herman Elementary School in Sparta. Their individual wings, which they've got 2 stories, 4 wings, are going to feel an awfully similar to the new addition that we're designing at the elementary school. And it gave the opportunity for teachers to stand in that space, feel that space, get an idea on fixtures and finishes, all of their cabinetry. They got a chance to see 4 different grade levels, which all chose 4 different types of student desks and chairs and all of those types of things. And we collected a lot of really great feedback from them on that we will use then as part of the design process. So having been through this process, or similar process, sometimes it's really difficult to see on paper what it's going to look like, but to stand in a room and say, this is pretty close to the feel with a couple of these tweaks. It really, I think, was beneficial for our staff. Mike, you got anything that you'd add in on that? Yeah.
Probably the biggest piece is that I heard from staff is they felt like they were heard, felt like they appreciated having an opportunity to be part of the process.
Yeah.
That doesn't always happen, and they were thankful for that.
Perfect. Thank you.
How many staff went?
How many staff? All but maybe 2?
Oh, yeah, a couple of people had some daycare things, but other than that, everybody was there.
All the elementary school staff was able to do the tour?
Yeah, so we got some really good feedback. We had kind of a scavenger hunt, if you will, of questions that they were to kind of address as their grade level group or individually, however they chose to do it. So we got some really good feedback, and they had a chance to see those things. They took some pictures, sent the pictures of what they liked, what they didn't like to Mike and I, and really beneficial for the group. And you had seen that, and you had seen the facility.
I would have loved to have went on that tour.
It was really helpful. Yeah. The elementary design is approaching the 50% design mark. The 50% design mark really at that point in time, we want to avoid any major changes as far as walls, big types of changes, where we put what within that space. A lot of finishes and those things can change after that, but that it's approaching that point, and a big part of that is like the plumbing and HVAC engineering will begin once we hit that 50% mark on those types of things. It hit me today, and I had a really good conversation conversation with Jared, who is the lead design person through Nexus. We have not had nearly enough B&G committee input on that, so we are scheduling, and I've got dates, and we'll work that out. A couple opportunities for them to get in before we hit that point where we can't make some of those more significant changes. We talked through their ideal model that they tried to run with. We said when it started, I don't think this is going to work because we're a small district. Our board wants more involvement than an average, all of those types of things. And there was some agreement today that we definitely need to shape this a little bit differently moving forward. Part of it is it's 3 weeks between our meetings, and it seems like that's a long time, but it comes up really fast at the same time, we want to make sure that process is more continuing to move forward, and we're getting all the input that we need from you guys as well. The high school will kick off tomorrow, and that's just the first conversation, basically providing some of the feedback that we heard during the referendum process on things that we would like to tweak a little bit from their concept designs. Then we will begin to plan some visits for tech ed and weight room venues and stuff in different schools as well. We've got crews coming in on Thursday afternoon this week and Thursday afternoon next week and Friday next week once our staff is gone. And they will be doing some exploratory work for the engineering part of the 1967 building. We have scoured as deeply as we can, and we cannot find any original structural drawings of the 1967 part of that building, believe it or not. So that means they need to do a little opening up of a couple spots and walls to confirm what they believe is behind the block. So we'll have a couple of holes that are going to get covered up with plywood and that type of thing, and we'll live with for a while. But just making sure that we're getting that all engineered correctly. And crews have also began the work of surveying the sites where the additions will be, again for the engineering part, and then create the flow for the job site, kind of laying out where they're going to put things and how we're going to function and have some school going on while some of this work is going on. That's the design side. On the contract, I had hoped for the January meeting, and then I thought maybe the February, and then what I've come up with, Bob took a good amount of time, which I'm thankful for, reviewed the construction portion, the architecture portion, construction portion of the contract. Architecture portion was pretty straightforward. The construction portion runs into most of the financial type things and just the who has the control to remedy and those types of things. As Bob put it, the contract is written for the most part in favor of the contractors, and there were things that he didn't necessarily feel comfortable advising on. So he suggested that we work with an accounting firm that works with construction contracts and make sure that those numbers are in line with industry standards and all those types of things. So we reached out to Whipley, and for not a whole lot of money, we're going to be able to just ensure that the money that we are spending on our projects are in line with those standards. They find that in most cases, their involvement will save more so than what we'll pay. And when I say what we'll pay for their services, $5,000–6,000 on a $24 million project to make sure we're spending the money the right way. I will tell you, I feel better about it when I'm reviewing 150 pages worth of contract documents that other people live in that world all the time, and I don't. So that's a good thing. So Whipley has as the contract now. We had our first conversation today, and have some things that we'll continue to work on, and they felt the timeline of having everything ready by the March meeting seemed in line. So we are not behind in that standpoint. I was actually talking with Chris from Holman the other day, which is working with Nexus, which approved the contract or approved the referendum on the same date that we did, and they are in the same type of status, just working back and forth to make sure that contract is right. So just kind of a quick update on that and some of the work that we're doing behind the scenes there. questions or anything on the facilities projects? And yeah.
I think I have a list of them, but Whipley that you talked about, that does not go through Nexus, and it's in regards to contracts, the contract to the contractors? Explain that to me.
So the construction contract is our contract with Nexus Solution for the construction side to be our construction managers. Whiffley is helping us review that contract to make sure that the amounts in that contract are in line with industry standards, that we are not overpaying for something, and also helping protect the district, that make sure that we have the right to remedy things the way that we want to see them remedied. So they are just reviewing the contract and making sure that it is in line with what it should be. And that's on Bob's recommendation after he reviewed the contract for the contract language.
Okay. What is your goal to be at 50% for the elementary school? Like your timeline? Because I feel like our meeting was very long ago, and you're almost to 50%, meaning no changes, no movement, but.
No, there will be changes in movement, but
I mean,
we will
structure-wise, like the structure-wise, I
believe we're every 3 weeks. The February 16th is not the next one. I think they're talking March 30th.
So you want everything down there
I think that's
in regards.
I think that's what they have marked as that 50% point. So we have time. And that's what I don't feel like we've got enough input yet.
Not at all.
Right. I fully,
like,
I fully
very
understand.
concerned.
Yep. If you have more.
But fine. I'm sorry, but this just seems like a big finances. When we look at that, we talked about a spreadsheet and a breakdown of how we could put things in and put things out, and it was going to be so transparent and easy to work with. Do we know what's in and what's out, or do you have a general idea? I mean, I was reviewing that big packet we got before today, and it's just so much information, and I feel like so much is on a wish list, and so many things I personally don't think we need. And so I want to kind of have an idea of what things on there actually made it in, and then have those discussions.
Yeah, I can get you what the list is. They actually took all the costing off of it, and that was one of the things that we brought back that we discussed today.
Okay.
That's why I'm taking my time, because I don't feel like we're there to where they said we would be.
Okay, so this is my feeling as a board member. I can't imagine what the feeling in the community is. So I feel like we need something on our website or something that's telling people, contracts are due in at this time. This is the process of how it works. This is where we're at. We got approved for 24 million, yes, but nowhere do we have to use that. Do we have a goal or a target saying this is where we want to be? This is what we're really hitting for? Because you talked about 800,000 savings. That's awesome. That's amazing, right? But then does that go into the budget of where we were? Nobody wants to go over, but then we haven't had the conversation of where do we really need to be. So I just think there's a lot of conversation that needs to be had in this department.
Absolutely.
I would agree, and I think that's where, David, we talked about the fact that Building and Grounds needs to be more involved than we currently are. I mean, we haven't had a meeting in a very long time, and not saying that we have the be-all, end-all answer, but we need to be able to communicate with our community if they ask us a question. And right now, I don't think any of us feel comfortable with that.
We just recently talked about that Building and Grounds Committee starting to meet and get those updates, so that can be shared with us and the community.
And I think I would like to know how the finances work too. So you talk about 19 being available right now. Is that just used, or is it put on a spreadsheet that we see what's being used, or when it's being used, or how it's being used? I don't want the full thing on, but I just need to understand better. That's all.
I can get you that for sure with the draw schedule and the PMA investment report.
We just want to be informed, right?
I agree. And as I was preparing this today, I realized just how many decisions have been made on a daily basis, or how many conversations are happening on a daily basis, and that we have not got. I had hoped originally, and this is this is my fault. I had hoped originally that we could get a little bit more, of the Building and Grounds Committee in on some of those conversations, and it hasn't worked out schedule wise because everybody is working their full-time job. So when I talked to Jared today, that was he will add in as many as we need in the evening that work with our schedules, and we'll make sure that you guys they're in on the loop on that. The FimSum tool is something that we will come back to. That's that spreadsheet, Tina, of what's in and what's out, and I absolutely agree. That's not present right now. It's not been a part of the conversations right now, and it needs to be part of the conversation before we say we're 50% there.
And I do think we need, they talked about providing a lot of services, but I really think we need something out there in the community on our website, because when people ask what's happening, where we are, we need a timeline out there, and we need to tell people where we are. Like, I don't even know when we're starting construction, because, or what our timelines are. Like, we had the sheet. I don't know where we are in it, though. And so, and there are a lot of people in the community that want to be a part of this, and they want to engage, and they don't know when or how.
There is a timeline on our website. So if you look right on our website, the 2022 referendum, there is a website similar to what we had pre-referendum with the project timelines, the plan, the investment, and the home. I had asked to put the drawings on there as we're developing them, and their suggestion was, let's wait till the 50% timeline to put that on the website. But if you're saying we need to have it more frequently, then we'll do it more frequently. It's changing quickly, and I think Mike and Josh could both speak to that. We are working on things, talking through things. So you don't see it, and then we don't see it for 3 weeks later, and then we're seeing it kind of for the first time when we're in those meetings and having a conversation, and that's just the process that they're using. So then there's tweaks and stuff made during that meeting, and the one that you came into the meeting with is not the one that you left the meeting with. So it's 3 weeks. They're working on it over that 3-week period before we see it, and then you have a meeting and it's obsolete. So that's kind of the cycle that it's in, and that's why we need to get the meetings in the evening so that you guys are part of those and see that process during the middle, and then get to that point where we can get some drafts out there sooner.
Have we looked into, and I could be wrong, and I'd have to look into this more, but I'm pretty sure that when this building was built, we had an individual in the community that was kind of a advisor. Like, we're by no means experts. I don't know if anybody on this board is going to say, well, that's overkill, or I think we need to do better, or whatever, that we could go to this individual. I think he was retired at the time. I don't know if he got paid to do it or not, but is that something that we look into, that we have somebody that kind of is maybe an expert in this area that, we can consult with too, that, they're a taxpayer in this district, and maybe can answer some of our questions.
I would kind of defer to the B&G team, because this is a conversation that we had during some of the early conversations, and there were pros and cons of that, is probably the easiest way for me to put that. And there wasn't, if there is an interest to do something like that, we can sure look at that. But I know that there were pros and cons of that the last time.
On the website, it does, there's a spot of the 2,000, and it has the dollar amount. It says, like, on the timeline, construction starting this summer. And so, not like, and maybe I'm being unrealistic, but from now until the middle of the summer, to get that plan designed correctly without pushing it through, approving it, and then putting it out for contract and bid, like, I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just, like, a little concerned with the time frame. There's some things on here that you can find, but
Yeah, what I continue to tell them is we've changed our calendar for next year to accommodate this. We can't afford to not have it meet that timeline.
We also can't afford to push it too fast either.
Yeah.
So it's a really hard balance.
It's good. We will schedule, before you guys leave, we'll make sure that we've got a couple of next dates, and if we can get on, an evening that works at a time that works, and schedule them every few weeks, every 3 weeks is when we're meeting. Something similar to that timeline would be fine. But we can talk about that. Thank you.
Okay, next agenda item, bus route adjustment. David?
Yeah, here I am. We've talked about this. We talked about it at our September school board meeting. We talked about the routes being incredibly full for buses. We spent the money and have installed the crossing lights to be able to get across 10th Avenue. We kind of waited for those, and then it got really cold. And we've waited, and we have waited all we can. We are over 60 riders most days on 2 to 3 of our routes. They vary every day, but the routes are full. A couple of them are to the point where we're just traveling too much geography to make everything happen. The length of the route is an issue. So we need to look at an opportunity to make that more efficient. And my conversation with you in September, and the conversation is the same now, without adding another bus route. So the letter that's there and the transportation handbook was sent to 17 families today that live within what we've deemed that safe walking distance, and we will work with them to help them transition, have some extra presence out here as we make that transition. But basically, at some point in time, you have to say we're going to actually apply what we've talked about, and March 1st is the date that we are going to do that. That's going to allow us to shift a number of students around on a couple of those routes, making the routes timed better and improving the number of students on it. I want to say in the last 2 weeks, Mike, we've added 8 to 10 students to our buses of new students coming into the district. Yeah. So it is, it is getting to the point where we don't have a choice to do that to do that any other way. So I just wanted to share that with you. I am going to work with, and I've had a couple conversations already today after sending the email out, and I will work with those families. We will figure out what we need to do to try to help them make that transition. I would have loved to have done it day one of school, but we really, I don't think we can make it till that point and still provide the service that the rest of the students in the district deserve. So it's kind of it's not ideal, but it's something that needed to be done. So we'll go into place March 1st, and I'm sure Mike and I will be having many conversations about ways we can accommodate and try to help support those families through that transition. Any questions on that?
Any questions? Okay. District action agenda. Purchase of a middle school, high school kitchen dishwasher.
Here I go.
I think there's a quote on page 24.
There is a quote on page 24. So our dishwasher in this building has reached the end of its life expectancy. We've had multiple service issues with it. We actually had kind of an accident with it last year when lines broke and sprayed chemicals out at a student or at a staff member that was working on it. It is at the end of its life expectancy. There were a couple of things that we were looking looking at to write a grant for it. The timeline on the grant was not ideal because it needs to be done sooner than later. And as we were doing that, we actually received an additional grant to our food service program that is for a buy local initiative. And we are able to use that to purchase a lot of our milk and those types of things, which frees up a little bit of the fund, frees up that much of the fund, the food service fund money. So in essence, we're going to be able to capitalize on that and get this dishwasher replaced and upgraded at this time. So with the time and the life left on this, and the fact that there are not very many vendors of this type of equipment, I asked that Emily go through, and she has picked out this machine. It is a slight upgrade from what we have. It's going to allow us to do some of the large sheets and multiple large sheets at a time. Again, going to help us just be more efficient in that space. It is a hot water sanitizing system versus a chemical sanitizing system, and that's better for the environment, more water and energy efficient on this end. So we feel like that's going to be a real upgrade. It's a faster cycle. It's going to be a huge improvement for that food service. And they do every day between the high school lunch and the middle school lunch. They wash all of the trays, get everything through between them. So the time matters there. And then after that, obviously, they're going through it again. So it is an upgrade. I am asking for a not to exceed price with the timeline on this. We've got a pretty solid price on the equipment itself, but there is installation that they will actually come out and do a site visit to confirm the price of the install. So we have a not to exceed number there. So we do anticipate this being hopefully being less than what the number we put in there to cover it. So looking for a purchase of the new dishwasher at a not to exceed $27,367.
So that price includes all of the things that you may not need. It includes the highest price of installation. It includes the highest price of whatever.
Yeah, there's a component that what we don't know on because it's a high temperature water. There's a tempering unit that then helps cool the water down before it goes into the drain system, and we're not sure if we're going to need that yet. And obviously, we'd take that off if they said no, you're going to be fine with your location. So. Those types of things. Again, the hotter water actually will help reduce the dry time too, because they're hot, so the steam will come off them faster and they'll be ready to go.
If there are no other questions, I'll make a motion to approve the purchase and installation of the new dishwasher for the kitchen at the Bangor Middle High School, not to exceed $27,367.64.
Second.
Motion made by Shelley, seconded by Joni. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Dr. Brockup, personnel?
Yeah, so a month ago, you approved a custodian hire for us, and it lasted a week, and you'll be hopefully approving the resignation tonight. In a crazy shift, we have 2 applicants that have come in since that point, and I believe they interviewed those 2 applicants today, and I anticipate I hopefully anticipate a hire that will be approving at the next meeting. But right now, we're looking for the approval of the resignation of James Kapanke.
So do we still have our part-timers in the meantime, in the interim? I thought they were pretty happy to be done.
They had a nice week of vacation and are right back at it.
I'll move to approve the resignation of James Kapanke from the custodial staff.
Second.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Lori to accept the resignation of James Kapanke. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
This is a resignation for Joy Crenshaw, which comes with mixed emotions. But Joy was working on her special education degree for the last few years while working as a para in our building. She completed all her coursework, and this fall she student taught in Sparta in student teaching, has completed that process, and is a licensed teacher. So a huge congratulations to her on taking that journey. I think we enjoyed having Joy here and gained a lot from her learning throughout the time that she was here. As we suspected, she was able to, she was offered a position as soon as she finished her student teaching. So we wish her the best as she starts her new position, or has started her new position in the Holman School District moving forward. So you can see her letter there and is appreciative of her time here. We're appreciative of her time here as well, but looking to accept the resignation for Joy Crenshaw.
I'll make a motion to approve the resignation of Joy Crenshaw.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Lori, seconded by Lisa to accept the resignation of Joy Crenshaw. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
So with Joy being out this fall on leave to do her student teaching, we had this position filled all year with a substitute. We were able to kind of really quickly fill things in. So the first part of this, Brenda Bratz, we are looking to increase her to the 7.25 hours a day, which is the standard for our special education paras. We're looking to increase that for her. So she has been with the district for a few years and has done a great job. And we're happy to have her on full time as part of our staff. So looking to approve the increase in hours for Brenda from 5.5 to 7.25.
I'll make a motion to approve the full-time employment of Brenda Bratz as special ed para effective January 23.
Second.
Motion made by Shelley, seconded by Joni to approve the full-time employment of Brenda Bratz. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
And the next hire there, Gretchen actually was in that long-term position for Joy. Brenda has been with us longer and stepped into that full-time position. Gretchen is now stepping into that part-time position that Brenda was in. And obviously, we're not necessarily just taking them. They're still working with the kids that they've built relationships with. Just a little tweak in the schedule of hours. We do. I will note here that this is a 4-hour position now at this point in time instead of a 5.5. We have had a student leave the building that required quite a little para time, and we use this as an opportunity to have a little attrition and move this position to 4 hours instead of 5.5. With the overlap in the number of students that the paras are seeing at one time, it made sense to continue the position in some form, but it didn't need to be the full 5.5. So looking to approve Gretchen Eklund for 4 hours a day. So her first official full placement in the district. She's been subbing with us for a number of years.
I'll move to approve the part-time hire of Gretchen Eklund as special education paraprofessional for the elementary school effective January 23rd.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Tina. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Administrative reports, Mr. Chaplin. All right. Mr. Johnson.
Well, we've rolling along at the elementary school. We got parent-teacher conferences at both middle and high school. We're using JMC to sign up those again. Seems to be going pretty smooth. I talked to Terry today about just feedback from parents, whether it was what she was hearing, questions. Just a couple people that the JMC system tends to work better with computers as opposed to phones. So that's kind of what we're working through, but we did in our notification of 2 parents explain some of those details that we learned from last fall. Looks like I'm sure we'll be at the very high percentage again, like we always are.
So conferences are next week, Mike?
Next Wednesday, yep.
Okay.
And then always a fun time of year, jump rope for heart kickoff. Last year, Jacob did a great job, and I think the kids put a bunch of pies in his face, which was kind of a fun celebration for the kids. That's always a nice program as well. Then we had our monthly PBIS assembly again, and it's always fun. They did a limbo contest, kids that were part of that. So I haven't seen a limbo since I was in high school, I think. But, Jacob Peterson did some preliminary limbo stuff in his PE classes, and then kind of got it down to a little bit of a competitive thing, and it was fun. It was a lot of laughter, a lot of that sort of thing. That's all good. We've been sick at school. We've got a lot of illness running around right now. We did send a notice out to parents last week, I believe, about strep and impetigo and that sort of thing, and the flu virus. And it seems really weird this year. Like kids we were just talking about it today. It seems like they are getting sick and then returning to school symptom free, and then like a day later, it's hitting them again. And it's been over and over. So, but we're hopefully to get through that. It's hard without Tammy there, but we're plugging along. A lot of work on extra staff and everything else. So,
Any questions for Mr. Johnson? Thank you. Dr. Brockup?
Yeah, I'm just going to do a shout out to John, who is making this work tonight on the internet. We have had some pretty major internet issues this week. And when you have this many people in a district that are all on one-on-one devices and the internet starts slowing down, it is amazing just how quickly you realize how dependent we are on that technology. So we're not back to 100% yet, but John has done a really good job of trying to get us the best that we can, and letting us continue to function. So one of those things that you don't think about that's happening behind the scenes, but it's pretty darn important to our teams. I did want to share, last week or last month, I did share a little bit about the state budget and just the importance, as you guys are hearing conversations on the state budget about some of those per pupil aid numbers and how that would give us some flexible spending. The special ed reimbursement is another talk out there that they're talking about those percentages that would again help aid our special ed reimbursement, but then that also creates more flexible spending dollars for the district, which is incredibly important. The increase to 4K to 100% is another one that's out there, and then the continuing push for mental health. As just as an idea right now, the DPI's proposed budget in the first year of the biennium is talking about a $350 per pupil increase in the state aid. For our district, that means about $213,000 in extra revenue, not extra, but additional revenue for us to have to spend with some flexibility. So that's an important number. I'm going to give you all of these in closed session as well, so you'll have them. I see Shelley's writing them down. The special ed reimbursement from moving that from 30 to 45%. is what is in the DPI proposal right now, would be an additional about $142,000 for the district. Just that change at that amount. The first year of the biennium, if the 4K were to go to 100%, remember those numbers are interesting because we're on a 3-year average on actual enrollment, but we estimate that to be about a difference of $120,000 in the first year that we are already staffed for and making happen. So that would be a real positive for our district. As you know, the state has released some special ed funding not special ed funding, mental health funding to help us out, but it's been on kind of a 1-year grant type situation where it's $18,000, for the district for a year. There is a large push to at least to increase that and to make it permanent. So it's not just a one-time deal. So, when we look at some of these changes and the budget conversation is going on, if we remember back 2 years ago when the biennium budget was being debated in Madison, we were in a pandemic. All the ESSER dollars had just come into school districts. So there was no increase to those per pupil aids. There was no increase to the special ed reimbursement. Those things didn't happen because the legislative team down there felt that we had plenty of money coming in from the ESSER dollars. As a district, we have not used those ESSER dollars to function, to depend on for staffing moving forward. We've been strategic in trying to use that money as much as possible for those one-time expenses. So while that is additional money for the district, these types of investments, and as you hear those conversations moving forward around the budget debate, I just want you to kind of know how they would impact our school district. So again, I'll share a little bit more about that with the board later. The last thing that I will just want to do is this month really hit me with a number of situations, and just give a shout out to the unseen champions for students that are in our district. In this role, I get to see things that are going on in every one of our buildings. And there's a lot that we don't and we shouldn't and we can't make public for the work that our staff is doing to impact lives for the better. And few people I've talked to, they know how I feel about the work that they're doing, the investment they're putting into students. And again, I can't tell every one of those stories, but I just want to say it's absolutely inspiring to know the number of staff that are working incredibly hard to make an individual difference in those children's lives every single day. So I just felt like that needed to be shared. The things that we don't see that we take for granted, similar to that the internet, our staff and the compassion they bring to this job and the energy that they bring to making that difference is impressive. So just a shout out to the staff and all of those people who've made that difference this month and every day that they come to work. So thank you to them. Any questions for me?
Okay. Removal of items from the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are current openings and then hire of an assistant girls softball coach. Barring no removal, I ask for a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Lori, seconded by Tina.
Joni.
Oh, Joni, I'm sorry. Seconded by Joni. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. We will now adjourn to closed session under Wisconsin Statutes 19.85, Para 1, Para C, Para F.
And Julie, I think this is one of those nights that we won't have any action coming out of closed session. So if we could end the video feed so these guys can pack up and get out of there, then we can spend as much time as we need and then adjourn in that room. Is that acceptable?
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. So I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn to closed session.
Second.
Second.
Oh, Shelley.
Go ahead.
Motion by Joni, seconded by Lori. We will do roll call votes, starting with Joni.
Aye.
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 We are now adjourned to closed session.
Our personal